And you're live.
Okay, perfect. So hello everyone. It is our pleasure to welcome you to day 3 of the webinar series. And today we have with us some very distinguished guests. We have Ambika, Dani, and Rishi Chhapolia. While Ambika is an alumnus of Colombia, Rishi currently studies there. As always, feel free to post any questions you may have in the Q&A box, and we'll pose them to our guests at the end. It's great to have you both here. In the tradition of ladies first, why don't you start by introducing yourself first, Ambika, and then Rishi can do the same.
Sure thing. I also don't mind if men go first, but my name is Ambika. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I was at TISB for 5 years as a year boarder from 8th grade all the way up to 12th grade. And then I moved to New York City where I studied math at Columbia. As I tried to figure out like what I wanted to do, I'd always loved teaching growing up. And so I found myself actually jumping into a full-time career as a teacher. So I've been teaching for about 10 years now. I've worked in like the educational and technology space, and I'm currently, over the last 3 years, have been working on founding a school of my own here in San Antonio, Texas.
Cool. Hi guys, I'm Rishi. I graduated from TISB in 2018. I spent 2 years there, did the IB program, and then I'm a rising junior at Columbia, so I'm going to go into my 3rd year, and I'm studying philosophy. So went to Columbia as a film major, then switched to econ, but now sticking to philosophy at least for the time being. Apart from that, I'm involved in theater and film and dance at college, and I've also founded an interactive media startup called Lemon Tree Media. So yeah, that's me.
It's great to have you both here. So this question is for both of you. Maybe Rishi, you can go first. Why did you personally choose Colombia? Like, what was the reason for you choosing Colombia?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was applying to colleges, I was pretty much set on wanting to be a filmmaker, and I applied to a mix of film schools and traditional, liberal arts colleges, and just non-film school colleges in the U.S., primarily to the U.S. And I chose Columbia because I felt like I didn't want to dedicate myself to just film and just learning how to make films and watching films and analyzing them for 4 years. I wanted to head into my undergrad as with a wide variety of options open to me, and just learn and grow as a person, and kind of let life happen to me, because as a 16-17-year-old, you don't really know that much about life. You've lived in a bubble, or at least I felt like I did. So I wanted to kind of go and see the world for myself. And yeah, I just felt like Columbia would be the perfect place to do that, especially because of the core curriculum. I think that really appealed to me, because since I was a child, I've always been into the arts and humanities, much more humanities inclined than STEM. And the core curriculum at Columbia, which I'm sure you guys have all heard about, it introduces you to a wide variety of the humanities, from literature to philosophy to music and art, and all undergraduate students have to kind of go through that curriculum. I'm sure Ambika, you did too if you were in Columbia College. So that, I think, really kind of attracted me to Columbia. And also being in New York City, I knew if I wanted to do anything creative, whether that was film or theater, or even music, I knew that New York City is really the place to be. So yeah, that's why I chose Columbia.
That's great. Yeah, I would echo a lot of what you said, Rishi. Like, in full transparency, I didn't know where I wanted to go to college. And so my older twin sisters who'd gone to college a year before me made me a list of 15 colleges, Columbia being one of them. I applied to all of them, saw where I got into, and then started to really think about which one was the best fit for me. I was still a little bit unsure about what I wanted to do. And so, like you said, having like the choice to engage in the liberal arts, to change your majors all the way up to your junior year if you have to, or even senior year, although not recommended, to, engage in the core. As much as I'm not someone that enjoys the humanities or arts or music, I found that like Colombia actually allows you to explore those things in unique ways to where you actually do start enjoying them and they become a part of you. And then it was New York City. I mean, who doesn't want to live in New York City? So I think the combination of like the place, the opportunities to connect, the opportunity to be flexible with the program, and really design your own course of study was really appealing to me. And I think the last thing I'll say is like I grew up in Nigeria, moved to India. I really love diversity and a mix of cultures, and like New York City is that. There are places in the United States that are not diverse, but New York is not one of them, fortunately.
Amazing. So I think both of you guys mentioned that the fact that it was in New York was a selling point for both of you. And sort of having that sort of a city campus has a different feeling than what traditional college campuses are. So what exactly is student life like at Columbia? What activities do students participate in to unwind? Is there a huge culture of student clubs and sports teams? And maybe what did you guys personally participate in?
Rishi, you want to start since you're there now?
Absolutely, thank you. I think I'd say there's such a wide variety of, I think I can tackle that in maybe two buckets, unless this is a separate question, which is campus life at Columbia and then campus life in New York City. So in Columbia, I think if you go on the Columbia like extracurricular website, there's like, I think 500 different listings for all sorts of different things. There's some of the wackiest stuff I saw and I mean that in the best possible way. Not chess club, anime club. There was, the sci-fi writing club, a couple of other clubs, which it may not be appropriate to discuss here, but just really wide variety of interests. And at college, so my first year, I was involved in Columbia University Players, which is a theater group. So I assistant directed a play and then directed another one. I took theater HL as a subject in the IB. So, really passionate about that, wanted to pursue that. And then I came back in my second year and I wanted to try something new. I've always been that kind of person, never wanting to, always wanted to try different sorts of things. So I joined a dance team called Columbia Ras, which is, if there are any good Jews in the crowd here, you probably know what Ras is. It's like the Gujarati folk dance with the dandiya and, a lot of jumping. Very good for your legs, actually. But I joined that, and that's been an amazing experience. I currently, for the next academic year, I'm going to be their treasurer. So that's, I think that's been really exciting. And then apart from those two kind of main clubs that I've been involved in, there's just so many activities all the time. There's, the undergraduate student life department has hosts like, they're like Columbia traditions. There's something called low party night, I think. I don't even remember what it's called. Ambika, if you want to elaborate on that, I don't even remember. But I think the college does a really good job of trying to cultivate a sense of college community, and that's really nice to see. And each student club is run entirely by students, so you can become a part of the executive board, so president, treasurer, communications, all those sorts of roles, which gives you a lot of great experiences to learn from and grow from as well. And then to just briefly touch upon the New York aspect of things, I think, where do I even start, right? The subway station is right next to campus. So 116th Street, buy a Metro card, get some money loaded in it, and then you can go wherever you want. No one's keeping tabs on you. So I, personally, I love exploring the museums. Columbia has this ticket to museums or passport to museums program, which allows you access to some museums for free. So I use that. I've exploited that. So go to the MoMA, the Met, typical art kid stuff. So I think that's really excited me, has been really exciting for me. And then visiting, the landmarks, which is Statue of Liberty, World Trade Center. There's an amazing restaurant scene and food scene in New York. So definitely that's my favorite part. But yeah, I could go on and on. So Ambika, please take over.
I think you captured that really well. I mean, I did Model United Nations in high school and then jumped into that in college for, a semester or a year and slowly phased out of it. I think for me, like I engaged in more clubs the beginning years of college. And then as I kind of figured out my path, I started to disengage and focus more on my career. But there, like Rishi said, there's like an infinite number of clubs. And if you don't find one that you like, you can go ahead and create one. And the beauty to it's cool that you can do that at Columbia. I think there are like lots of cultural clubs, right? You have like the Indians and the Koreans, and every culture has their own club. And then you have dance clubs and every type of club you can imagine. So there's a lot of opportunities to engage, maybe like an overwhelming amount at first. And I think it's just about finding, the right fit for you.
So it's great to hear that both of you had such a positive experience. However, for a lot of us, the idea of college is something very intimidating and like a completely new environment. So for both of you, what was your expectation or idea of college before you went, and how significantly did the reality differ from your idea of college life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go and be really honest about it. I think I just like expected college to be as easy as like high school was for me, socially, academically, and that wasn't the case, honestly. Like I said, I was like a third culture kid. I'd grown up in lots of different places and thought I could assimilate, and I felt a little bit isolated, honestly, when I first moved to the United States. I think it's an incredibly different culture than my personal culture, which I think is really aligned to Indian cultures, and it took me a while to find my like little niche at Columbia that I felt really comfortable with. So socially, like it was a challenge at first, but once you find your people, it becomes beautiful. And we also had a huge group of TISB people in New York, so it was always good to have that support network. Academically, I think like for the first time, you're given this creative freedom. It shouldn't be the first time. I'm hoping TISB is a different school now, although I doubt it, unfortunately. But like you're given this creative freedom, right? You take all these really cool classes and like it's not about the grades, it's about the product and the questions you ask and the discussions you engage in. And so it's so much more than a grade at the end of the day or a test. And I think that was intimidating to get over first because we were so used to like just working on tests and studying and memorizing, which is just not what we should be doing. So it definitely was a bit of an adjustment for me. And I felt like, I was super strong academically and socially in high school. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'd echo most of what Ambika said. I too felt, I think it took me the entire first year to kind of adjust. And, I spoke to a couple of older students and they said, like, they were in their third years and they're like, yeah, I still can't say I can call Colombia home. And that would really scare me because I'm like, okay, but what's wrong, right? But then I think it's a function of two things, as Ambika, very acutely pointed out. I think, there's the culture aspect, the culture shock. I've lived in the US a couple of years before college, but still, most of my time spent in India. We have Indian values, Indian culture. You're used to living a certain kind of way. No matter who you are in school, when you come home, or even if you're in boarding, you have a certain sort of, a set lifestyle. In college, all that is appended because you're, living with people you've never met before, like probably, right? And you're friends with people from like probably all around the world, and you're in a new city, a new country. So I think that can be very disorienting. And in addition to that, I'd add New York City. It takes some time to open itself up to you because everything is so fast paced and everyone's doing their own thing, and you can easily leave campus and the world, like the city is your oyster, really. It can kind of seem like there's a lot like happening at the same time, like sensory overload. But that being said, I think I think it after a year, and I definitely settled into my pace. I found my like tribe of people at college. I kind of New York City does take some time to get used to, but now I absolutely love it. It's like I have withdrawal when I'm not there, I'd say. On the academic side, I think it's awfully humbling because most people at Columbia, I think all people at Columbia really, it's amazing because when you walk into a classroom, it's just we've been walking, by the time you go to college, you'll have been walking into classrooms for about 13 years already. So you're used to like having a certain kind of mix of people in the class and, a certain kind of attitude. And most people who end up at Columbia are, the top of their class, academically stellar, they know what they want to do, driven, hardworking, quote unquote, like perfect, right? Like molded students. And that it's amazing to walk into a classroom and think, okay, like everyone next to me was probably valedictorian and class president and had like amazing SATs and extracurriculars, and each one of these people is like amazing, right? And that can lead to imposter syndrome, which is, when you feel like you're not good enough and you just feel like, okay, I clearly don't know what I'm doing and everyone else seems so perfect and smart. I think pretty much everyone at Columbia faces that. But, again, I would caveat that by saying, I think the people are the best part of my Columbia experience. I think getting to meet people with such a diversity of interests and from such a diversity of backgrounds, and with so many different talents, and not all conventional ones, right? I think in TISB, as Ambika was saying, there's a very specific version of success. I think, which is not bad. I think that's very fair. But I think just going into a new country, going to a new college, expands your horizons and just makes you think differently about the world and the people who inhabit it. And for all in all, I think it was different from what I expected. But I think as a result of that, I've become someone who I didn't expect to become in the best possible way.
That's amazing. I mean, and I think a lot of what you guys talked about, both the social and the academic pressure, is a lot for like students who have been sort of just, all we've seen is this is TIS and IB. So do you think that the pressure at Columbia is really, really great and people aren't able to cope? Or do you think it's, it's all right, people get used to it? And what are the mental health facilities like to support people who aren't able to cope?
Ambika, please go ahead.
You're just thinking and then you come up with these poetic responses. I think it was a lot of pressure initially, but just for the reasons that Rishi and I both stated, where we were both kind of finding ourselves for the first time. And I think, a big piece of that is because I don't think we had the freedom, or I personally didn't feel like I did in high school. It was very dictated, especially being a boarder. Like every piece of your life is dictated. And you didn't have those creative classes. You didn't have, it's a very different experience. So I don't think it's an academic pressure necessarily. I think if you're coming out of the IB, you're a good student, like, hey, you can pass classes at Columbia. That's not the issue. The issue is like, how are you engaging with what you're being presented with? Like, are you going above and beyond? Are you going to your professor's office hours to have these conversations with them? Because ultimately, like, at the end of TISB, you get a grade for your IB, and like that defines who you are. At the end of college, like you're defining the rest of your life in a way, right? What you do in college, what you create, the friends you make, the network you make, all of that defines the rest of your life. And that is a lot of pressure. So it's not about the grades in my mind, it's about the connections you're making and what you're creating. And so I think that's where the pressure comes in. I didn't take advantage of any of the like mental health counseling or anything like that, because I honestly like was never even really aware of that. Like we don't talk about that in India. We should, we don't. Maybe I would have had I been more open to that. But I don't know if you did, Rishi. I'm sure they have a strong department, and I encourage you all to like take advantage of that stuff as you need it.
Yeah, I mean, again, pretty much entirely on the same page as Ambika there. Columbia has a program called CPS. I think it's Columbia's Psychological Services, but it's basically they have on-campus therapists to help you guide through any problems you're having, whether that's personal, academic, professional, social, because your entire first year you're pulled in so many different ways, not just academic. I think honestly, guys, I would say academic is probably in your first year at least the least of your worries. But Columbia has definitely started, at least since my time there in 2018, when I joined in 2018, they've always kept that very loud, that message very loud, that we're here for you and we're here to support you. And even during the first, the first week, which is the orientation program, they have a lot of mandatory programs on, training for, how to respect other people's cultural identities, their gender identities, workshops on, being aware of, sexual assault, all sorts of things. So I think Columbia does a lot of, has taken, at least in my view, a lot of initiatives to kind of make everyone as comfortable as they can. But yeah, that being said, I think I completely agree. In the ISB, there's like you know what success looks like in high school, right? Get into the best possible college, get the best possible IB score, and get the best possible SAT, right? And your success is determined by, okay, I got into the top 5, like a college which is in the top 5 or the top 10, and you're like, okay, this defines my success, this is my legacy. And then in college, it's not like that, because there's no conventional like path to success. It's you determine what you want. Like some people want to fill their entire time with classes and research, and they genuinely enjoy that, which is success for them. But some people want to take classes, but also social life is really important to them, and they need to like go out with their friends and go to restaurants and explore the city, which is success for them, right? I think some people whom I've found didn't enjoy college that much was who, like, these people stuck to that vision of success, like highest possible GPA, best possible job offer, just the traditional vision of success, which you realize this is life. Like life, there's always like a tradition of, okay, this is the best. And, I mean, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but I would say Colombia does offer, I think, a great resources to help you. And I think the best resource, honestly, is focus. The first year, the advice I would give to anyone going to any college is focus on making a good support group, make a lot of friends, or, if you like making few friends, make few friends, but, get a support system that works for you. And that support system will help you through anything in life. I promise that.
So that's absolutely great to hear. So I think a lot of what both of you mentioned also revolve around student culture. So what do you think is the student culture like at Colombia? Are the students competitive, or is there more focus on collaboration in general?
Yeah, I guess I could start that off. I think, that binary might be a bit reductive, because I think it's like asking, okay, not to like put down the question, but it's any place is very filled with, such a diversity of people. I think before I went to Colombia, I was kind of scared, because I was like, oh, it's an Ivy League. They have like this. I've heard that they're kind of snooty and pretentious, and they think they're better than everyone. And for some reason, I'd heard that Colombia specifically was more cutthroat and very competitive and very snaky, because Wall Street is right there, and like Wall Street people tend to be very like snakes, whatever. But I think as is the case with any college, there's always going to be like nasty people, and there's always going to be really nice people, which I've encountered both sorts of people at Colombia. Mostly, I think mostly the latter, which is the nice people. I think a lot of it is about, but again, that being said, since everyone's been used to being the topper and being the best in school, like before coming to Colombia, I think that you can encounter like, people maybe focusing a lot on themselves and, what they're doing, and that can feel a bit intimidating, which is kind of related to the previous question, I guess. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a very clear-cut answer to that, but I would say the best part about the people at Colombia is, the best part of my Colombia experience is the people. I'd like to reinforce that. I think they can't be defined in any word except diversity, and diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of all sorts of things. And I think that's immensely beneficial to anyone, just because of how much it makes you grow and how much it makes you think in different ways. And I think some of the most valuable lessons you learn in college is outside of the classroom. So I would say definitely be open to those kinds of experiences.
Yeah, I would just say, like, I think that there are competitive people everywhere. Like, I'm personally competitive, and I think being competitive can drive you in really positive ways. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I was probably one of those competitive people at Columbia too. And I think ultimately, like, what I realize is that it doesn't do you any good. Ultimately, like, you need to do the best for yourself. And what's good about Columbia is they don't foster that culture of competition. Like, I have distinct memories at TISB of my physics teacher handing out tests and saying who the top 5 were, and saying, like, and really embarrassing people and praising people in front of the entire class. And so like that's the kind of unhealthy competition that puts people against each other. So that, like, I don't think you find that at Columbia. And honestly, I don't think you find that in great educational institutions, because ultimately they're about the individual student and trying to make you grow and succeed in ways that are best for you. So I think you'll find that all over the United States, not just Columbia, that like beautiful culture of cultivating the individual.
Completely understand, because of course, as you mentioned, the difference between healthy and unhealthy competition and the diversity, I think those are all great points to consider. So what did you do in TISP, just in general, as part of your life, and maybe also your extracurriculars, which prepared you for your time at Columbia?
Yeah, I did a lot. I was a year boarder, so clearly I had a lot of time. And maybe all of you are. I'm not quite sure. I was a head girl, head of school. I played volleyball, I played tennis, I swam, I led Vivan, I think I said Model UN. I tried to volunteer. Like whatever I could, I would do. And a lot of that was because I was truly passionate about those things. Like I love doing Model UN. That was a lot of fun for me. I love playing sports. I was in the Explorers and no one wanted to compete, so I played every single sport. But oh well. But I think looking back on that, like some of those things I did because there was this pressure to like get as much as you can on your college resume. And unfortunately, like I don't think that anyone told me that wasn't what I had to do, right? Yes, it helps, but I also think being really clear about who you are, having a clear passion and showing that you have done something meaningful in your 4 years of high school to like work towards that passion is much more powerful than a resume full of disconnected things that don't tell a story about who you are. So as much as like I did a lot of those things, I think I also like could speak in my college applications to my passion for equity, for education, and could show that like those were things I constantly engaged in all the way from like, I don't know, 10th grade, or sorry, earlier than that. But I think that is more powerful. And I would kind of suggest that you all don't feel the pressure to have these extensively long resumes, because I've been interviewing, Columbia kiddos that are applying to Columbia, and I see that, and I am at first impressed by that, but I can tell you that none of them in the last like 5 years of me interviewing have actually been accepted to Columbia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think I completely agree with the point about knowing, like determining who you are and who you want to be, and like what truly excites you, and then doing that. I think TISB is a fantastic school, and it has great college placements. And
am I allowed to do that on a webinar? Sorry.
And I think with that comes a lot of pressure. To do certain kinds of things. As I said, there's a certain expectation, like which you have to mold yourself to. And I think everyone has their complaints about TISB. Nothing is perfect. If you ask me, I could complain about Colombia as well. I could complain about my parents, whom I love very much. But my point is, I think what really worked for my TISB experience was I made the opportunities for myself. There was STEM. Like most TISB kids are into STEM. From my experience, computer science is the hottest stuff. Economics is also really hot. Data science, which are all really lucrative and really amazing fields. A lot of exciting work being done there. But if as someone who took theater HL and English HL, and also computer science HL, but only because I was truly passionate about it, not because I'm not going to justify and say like I'm different. But as someone who didn't take English HL and theater HL, and in both the classes, I was one of the, I think, 2 or 3 boys in the class, or males in the class, in a classroom otherwise filled with females. So I joined in the 11th grade, so I already had a lot of anxiety about, okay, is this useless? Like, is English HL useless? Is theater HL useless? Are these just like fun subjects? Most people were taking math HL and physics HL, and they were like, the kind of image was that they're really hard, and that's why they're really valuable, and colleges love them. And I was really scared. I tried switching into math HL, and I tried switching to econ HL as well. And my parents convinced me not to, for the better, because I realized that I wanted to do this was my passion. The humanities and the arts were my passion. It was hard to hold on to that because of, the pressure of not like those subjects being less valued around me. But I think with the support of my friends and my family and a lot of teachers at TISB as well, for sure, especially the drama department, I think I was able to make those opportunities for myself. So, coming back to the question, I started a film club, which I have the poster on the wall right there. I don't know if you guys want to see that. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the TISB Film Club, a truly fond memory. And I started a poetry slam competition. In Vivum, I introduced a film competition. I did everything I was passionate about. I also used to compose and publish music on my own time. So shameless self-plug here, but you can look up my name on Spotify and listen to some music. It's a bit old now, but I think you might enjoy it. But I did all the things that I was truly passionate about, which is the arts and the humanities. And there were no clubs existing for that in TISB, apart from the annual theater production, which I also participated in. So as I said, I made those opportunities for myself. And yeah, I think the advice I would give is figure that out for yourself. There's a lot of, I think I'm very fortunate because my parents were very open and supportive of my interests and what got me going. I know a lot of people don't have that, which, is hard. But I think the best possible advice I can give is figure out the subjects you like, figure out the stuff you really love doing. Like you come back home at 4 p.m., like 6 p.m. after a whole day of school and after school activities and sports and everything. Find something that you can just have a quick meal and you're like, okay, no, I would love spending the rest of my 3 hours doing this, in addition to homework. That's what I found. I love doing what I did, and I would suggest people try and find and cultivate extracurriculars that appeal to them. If you don't like, working in nonprofit and you don't like kind of doing NGO work, don't do it. Like it's not a checkbox that colleges are looking for. I see so many people. I was one of those people too. I was like, oh, NGO, like got to get my community service hours. I did that. If you college admissions officers are this is what they do for a living, so they can tell when you're not passionate about something. But yeah, anyway, to kind of wrap up my answer, find what you love and do what you love, and you'll end up where you need to end up.
So I think that's some really great advice that a lot of us need to hear repeatedly to truly get the message across. So for most of us, our interests may or may not necessarily align with our area of study. So do you think at Colombia you find enough time to pursue personal interests that may be completely unrelated to what you're studying? Like, is there enough time, or is it mostly focused on academic work?
I would just encourage you to find a way to make your area of study align to your interests, because I think it just goes along with what Rishi and I just said, right? Like at the end of the day, you want to come home and you want to love what you're doing. And so if you're studying math or STEM for the sake of doing it, you're going to have a miserable life. And I have a lot of friends that have done that, right? They went the finance path because their parents told them to do that. They're going to get a great job. And then here they are at 30 plus that are like, wait, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And they've gone through 5 different jobs. So there's so much. And when you go to liberal arts college in the United States, you really get to define what you study. And I would just encourage you to think deeply about where your passions lie and try to align those as best as you can.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. As all the previous answers, I completely agree with Ambika on this point. I think, with the liberal arts college, you get to define your own time. If you want to, as I said earlier, if you want to spend your entire time, going to classes and doing research in labs, you can do that. That's fantastic. If you want to spend the least possible amount of time in classes and, spend the rest of your time making films or, dancing or, I don't know, solving really complex math problems with your friends, you can do that as well. So it's really up to you to define how much academic course load you want to take per semester. The minimum required amount is, no matter what score you get in the IB. If you've done the IB, I think it prepares you pretty well for managing your time in college. So you can do that. And yeah, I would echo that, the Ambika's point of align what you're studying with your personal interests. Of course, if one of your personal hobbies is I don't know, chess, and you don't want to be a professional chess player, you want to study econ, of course, don't study logic and math and the academic areas related to chess, but Yeah, in conclusion, I would say, from my own experience, I was doing a film major in my first year, so I was taking the required classes, and outside I was doing theater. I was also doing some econ research with a PhD student. And then this year I was pursuing on what, like, first semester I was pursuing econ, then I switched to philosophy. And I got to do time. I had the time to do dance. I had the time to explore New York. I was also running the startup at the same time. And then this semester, while doing my classes, I also interned at a film company in Brooklyn, while also running the startup, while also dancing. For the dance team, we traveled to different places in the US to compete as well. So I would say, yeah, you get it. How you want to spend your time is completely up to you. And yeah.
That sounds good. I mean, I think that's both what Ambika said and what you said are really important to keep in mind. If you don't do what you love, then you're going to end up regretting it for the rest of your life. And I think pivoting back to academics while you guys were at Colombia, or while you are at Colombia, how do you find internships or research opportunities? What is that process like, and how did you network to get those connections?
Yeah, Ambika, please.
Okay, I was letting you go so I could echo you. But how did I do that? I like I said, I was passionate about education early on. And so there's like work study for American kiddos, but then if you work on campus at Columbia, there's a way to do that as an international student. So that's what I ended up doing. I was working on campus at like an after school center, tutoring kids and just teaching kids. And so unfortunately, like it's hard to find those things during the year. When it comes to the summer, or actually, sorry, I take that back. You can do it during the year. I think what's complicated is you get this thing called OPT, which is 12 months of being able to work in the United States, like during your time at college, or you can save it for your 1 year after college. And so you're left in this dilemma as an international student about how to split up these 12 months. Like, do I take advantage of my first summer? Do I save it till when I graduate? I found internships and I applied for OPT, and I did it every summer in the hopes that I would find a job when I graduated, and sure enough, I did. So I think just like every other kid, you're looking for what you're interested in. You just need to be extra prepared on the like legal and immigration side of things to make sure that you get that OPT card in time. And I wish I had known more about that earlier on in college, and I think I found out too late, to where like I literally got my card the day before my internship started and almost lost my internship as a result. So now that we are telling you this, like one of the first things you do when you go there is learn all about OPT and start thinking about how you're going to use that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think for all international students, if you're going to the US, any college in the US, excuse me, I think the OPT is very important to be aware of, and especially when you're applying internships, planning out your time. I think that gets really annoying, but it's important to know that. I wouldn't be able to speak too much on that front because I'm a US citizen, but speaking, I know, I'll take all the flack for that because I know how hard international students have it. But what I'd say is, I think Colombia has they have a thing called CCE, which is the Columbia Center for Career Education. You get unlimited number of free consultation hours with the advisors there who are really competent, really know what they're doing. Although they do have a bit of a more experience in finance and consulting, because that's what most people do. So I found myself at a bit of a loss, little bit of a loss, not too much for film. But I think that's an absolutely fantastic resource. You basically get 30 minutes with a career counselor, and you can spill your heart out to them about all the problems you have, and they'll help you navigate that. And then through the CCE, they also have a website called Handshake, where they keep posting opportunities throughout the year related to internships, on-campus work, as Ambika was pointing out, part-time, full-time, all sorts of things, which you can constantly keep a tab on, and they'll send you emails. So that's very good. Columbia has a lot of networking events. A lot of employers come to campus. All the hottest employers from all the hot tech firms from Google, Facebook, Amazon, blah blah blah, and also like consulting and finance, whether that's McKinsey, BCG, finance, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all those guys. They love Columbia, really. So you can expect to go to those networking events and just meet all these like really successful like partners and like software people and investors and all those sort of thing. And it's a great opportunity to just get to know people and expand your understanding. So yeah, networking events, career fairs, all that sort of thing. Yeah, that's all I would say. And then in the summer, when you want to apply for opportunities, usually you have a higher chance of getting into companies where you've networked a little bit before. And since so many employers come to Colombia, you'll be meeting a lot of different people if you want to. And yeah, I think in conclusion, I would say Colombia, it really leverages, especially the employers who are based in New York. And depending on how much time you want to spend on that, you can really knock yourself out.
And if I can just add one more thing that honestly, I wish someone had told me this a long time ago, and I learned it very late in my life. People want to help you. Like Rishi and I are here today because we want to save you from the mistakes that we made. And one of the things that I've done more recently in my life is I have utilized LinkedIn to its core, to where LinkedIn I was blocked off of LinkedIn because I sent so many messages when I moved to San Antonio to build a network. And when you're in college, I wish in college I had started connecting with people randomly on LinkedIn, because the worst thing they can do is say no. And I wish I had sent more messages out to people I wanted to connect with, and genuine messages, right? You're not just sending messages to get a job. You're sending messages because you want someone to be your mentor. You want someone to tell you how they've got to where they've got. And very quickly, that one message develops into a relationship, develops into an opportunity. And I have seen that come to life in so many ways for me over the last 4 years that I've done that. And so I would say, get a LinkedIn profile if you don't have one already. I know you're just in high school. It's okay. There's a lot you can put on there, and start building your network and continue to foster that network, right? Once you build those connections and they give you an opportunity, that's not goodbye. That's thank you so much. And I can't wait to continue to tell you what I'm doing, because you never know when the next time they're going to introduce you to someone else is. So please, if there's one thing you do today, sign up on LinkedIn and start building your network.
So I think that's great advice, and we'll definitely keep that in mind. So this question again is for both of you. So do you think that your college education has provided you with the skills you require to work in the industry of your choosing?
Yeah, I think I can start off because I haven't entered an industry yet. And then Ambika, you can build off of that, having graduated a few years ago. Has the college prepared me with the skills to work in the industry of my choosing? I think that's a good question, because, a really bugging question I've had throughout my time at Colombia is, okay, I'm getting a humanities degree, right? I'm majoring in philosophy. I don't know for sure that I'd want to be a philosopher, which is, if you want to be a philosopher, it's basically going to academia, get a PhD in philosophy, and then you teach, right? I don't know if that would be a good fit for my personality. And that's why I had that entire kind of process of, first film, then econ, then then actually philosophy. I would say, and this is, again, as you were saying, Big Gyan, this is just as with TISB, there's certain things you need to hear again and again to kind of understand them. At Colombia, it's been the same for me. There's some things I came in with, and it just took a repeated amount of, kind of pestering and seeing that message reinforced everywhere to truly get what is happening. And that message is this, that at a liberal arts college, at least specifically at Colombia, what they say is that they're preparing you how to think rather than how to work, right? And this is something I've heard. First, I heard it from all these, career counselors and these admissions officers and the people I was working with at Colombia. And I was like, this marketing spiel, they just want me to pay a lot of money and get my degree. But then I also started speaking to alumni who, alumni who graduated long ago, and, using LinkedIn. I just messaged them and called them, and I started talking to them, and they said the same thing. They said all the people who said they made the most out of their Colombia experience said that one of the best things that I did is use college to learn how to think. Because you have the rest of your life to work and do internships, and if you have the resources, go to grad school, and your life will work itself out. But college is an opportunity, 4 years of your life, that you can take any sorts of classes you want, meet any kinds of all sorts of people you want, and that opportunity is never ever going to come back. And conversely, all the people who said something they wish they had done in college is not just majored in econ, or not just majored in finance, or not just in CS, and instead even if they did major in those things, taking the time to explore things outside. Because now, okay, even if you have a $500,000 a year job working at JP Morgan and you have a fancy penthouse, that you're using college to grow as a human being, not just to earn money, right? Money is important. It is very important. And especially going as an international student and you're spending so much money on acquiring that education, yes. But personally, and this is my personal opinion, right? Play the long game. Learn, use college to figure out who you are, what you like, what you dislike, which is as important as knowing what you like. And the industry will come to you. I think I've been taking classes in like next semester I'm taking classes in metaphysics and the history of philosophy and in Latin American civilization, which is not related to what I'd want to do. I might like the three things I'm considering right now are the film industry, product management and technology, or consulting. And consulting because I find the thinking in consulting very similar to the kind of thinking we have to do in philosophy, right? So that's what I've been exploring. But the classes I'm taking don't necessarily pertain to that. But the best experiences I've had is where I've debated with my classmates about how to interpret this passage of Immanuel Kant's philosophical treatise, or discussing Don Quixote and what it means for like the history of Islam in Spain and all those sort of things, which is like, yeah, I don't want to do that with my life, but it just teaches you how to think widely and think in a getting down to the first principles of communicating and thinking, which you can apply in any field really. Yeah, I don't know if that makes complete sense, but that's what I have to say. Ambika, please take over.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick so we can get to some of the questions, but I would say like, no, college did not prepare me for my job. I learned a lot on the fly with my job. Like right now I'm founding a school, I'm teaching, I'm a broker trying to find land for this school. Like it is such a range of things that nothing can prepare you for, right? I think like Rishi said, it gives you the skills to navigate the world that we're going into. Do you have to go to college to get those skills? Absolutely not. Like, will my kid go to college? Maybe if they want to, I don't know. I'm a personal believer that like everyone can get to the point they want to through various routes. And so as much as I value my experience at Colombia, I don't think in any way it helped me like do what I'm doing now. It did help me get jobs. Like, unfortunately, we still live in a world where people look at your resume and they see Columbia or Harvard or Princeton. And I hope that like as a collective, we can change that world, because I don't think that should mean anything. I don't think the fact that I went to Columbia should mean anything different than, someone going to a different college. So yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think it did prepare me for where I am, but it made me a better person, and it made me like understand myself better and make me more confident. So.
Yeah, I think that's also a really, because we think that, college is just going to prepare us and put us into industry, but there are a lot of things that we do need to learn as time goes on. So I think we have some questions from the audience, and I think we'll begin answering them. So the first one is, would you recommend a double major in 2 STEM fields, one of them being math? So maybe Ambika, you might.
Yeah, I was messaging Gotham. I just said, like, I had a friend that majored in math and physics, and like she took 7 classes a semester. She worked all the time. She loved it, right? If you love that, go for it. It kind of aligns with everything we've been saying. Like, I majored in math. I kind of minored in education and statistics, but I didn't see the need to get that minor title. For me, it was just like, I took as many classes as I liked until I felt like that was enough. And so I would encourage you to like major in the thing you love, and then not feel like you need to go towards titles, and just kind of like do what interests you and do what you're passionate about. You don't need a major in chemistry to like go into something that relates to chemistry.
Perfect. So I hope Gotham got his answer. Most people consider the IB as an extremely intimidating course. How did you guys handle the IB and college apps? So I think they want to ask, how did you manage your time?
I mean, like, you guys have a lot of time in high school. The real world is much harder to manage time in. I know it feels like a lot, but you can do it. I would say prioritize the things that matter the most. Like, yes, unfortunately, the IB test scores matter in the world we're living in. So study a little bit, like prioritize having time for your friends, prioritize having time for your health. I use a lot of like tools in my life right now that I kind of wish I had back in the day to prioritize, to plan my life, to like calendar things out that have actually made me a much more productive person. I'm so happy to share that with anyone. I can share my email here, but like if anyone wants to talk to me about like time management, it is something that I have grown in substantially over the last few years and would love to share more about that with you.
Yeah, I would echo the same thing. Really, I think this is. I mean, again, I can go on and on about this, and but yes, I would be to give a brief answer. I'm a very type A person, so I love organizing things and like being very conscientious, and I like it's a terrible habit sometimes just make a list for everything. So I would make like a huge like I had the sheet on my desk. I think my mom started using that sheet for something else, but I used to use it in the IB. I would draw out a grid, of all the days in the month, and then I would start with the deadlines in red sketch pen. I would write out, okay, on this day, like my CS IA is due, and then on this point, my theater IA is due, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd work backwards. I'm like, okay, I need to spend maybe 8 hours doing this. So from how can I budget out my time? So I would take a blue sketch pen and then write out, okay, so Monday I will do 1 hour, Tuesday I'll do 2 hours, Thursday I would use to review all the work I've done, and then Friday I'll be ready for submission. Sort of like that. I think time. I've always said to everyone, I think in my experience, the IB was much more about time management than it was about intelligence, and I think it's a very, very valuable skill, especially as Ambika said, in college, and especially after college, time becomes much more limited, and it's much less defined for you. Right now, you don't realize the value of something until it's gone. But regardless, I would love to, as Ambika said, I would love to connect with you guys and kind of discuss this more in detail. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and I'd love to have a chat on the phone with any of you.
Yeah, Rishi and I are only responding if we see your LinkedIn connections coming through.
Okay, that's great, because I think I sent a LinkedIn connection request to both of you already.
Yeah, I did see that. My bad.
Good job.
Yeah. So we have a question from someone saying Colombia has a core curriculum. So how much of your time went into that, and was it ever a burden to be studying in a core curriculum?
It's a lot. It's like, I don't know, 2 classes a semester all the way up to junior year. It's a lot. You take 2 PE classes, you take a science class, you take a math class, you take civilizations, you take lit hum. I hated reading and writing. So my first semester, like I absolutely hated my core curriculum classes, but it was more of the professor and less of the class. And once I figured out I could research my professors and change them, things became a whole lot better. So just know you have that flexibility. Again, something I wish someone had told me. I think sometimes it can feel like a burden because not all of us want to take all of those subjects. And then I think in those classes, you try to make the most of it and you ask the questions that interest you and you just like make it an experience that is as good as possible for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, completely on the flip side here. The kind of, but I agree with what Ambika is saying on one hand. I think for people who are not inclined towards the humanities, like I am, and or like towards the arts, it can be a lot, and it can be kind of frustrating. Like, okay, I just want to study medicine. Like, I don't want to read like 25 novels since the beginning of time and like Greek philosophy. Like, I get that. So I think.
Well, that's because I had to sit in
that
class with someone like Rishi who like loved talking about this stuff, right? So I think it's just funny, right? I think you and I show the difference in why it can be frustrating because you can just see your passion for the humanities. And I would sit in class and be like, oh my God, how can they still be talking about this, you know? Sorry, keep going.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Oh no, I was just saying, I think my internet's glitching out a bit, so I might be lagging here. But just to wrap up that answer, I think if you don't like the humanities, find ways to switch your professor. The core classes tend to be graded much easier than your major classes. So just like put in the work, talk to people. At least you'll make new like friends. You'll get to think of cool things, like cocktail party conversation. If you do love the humanities, I think I mean, there's nothing like it. I think it's my favorite classes have been the core curriculum classes. So yeah, even if you're majoring in, like medicine or finance, if you like reading and writing and thinking about like philosophy and literature and music, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Right. So exactly what you guys said, different perspectives on the same thing. And I think that's amazing that we have both of you guys here to give us those very perspectives. Ambika, I think there's a question for you. Why did you choose to get into education with your math degree, and what other fields are common after studying math?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've always loved teaching. I care deeply about kids, and I think I'm just like, I have to do something good and purposeful in my life to feel like I'm happy. And so that's why I chose education. I think there's so many things you can do with math. Like you can get into the consulting world, into finance, you can do data science. Math is just a really fluid subject. Like it just opens up possibilities for you. But it can also be intimidating to figure out like what that path is. So I would encourage you, like if you are confused and you know you love math, kind of like I started to think outside of the math and start to look at the other things I was engaging in, and I continued to see this like constant, I kept going back to education, and so that's why I majored in it. I mean, not majored, but that's why I taught.
Okay, great. So we have Nikhilesh asking, do you know if anyone does a part-time job? And if so, do you have any idea how they can basically manage the part-time job with their daily schedule?
Yeah, I think we talked briefly about part-time jobs. So like I was working while I was in college. Y'all, your schedule is way more open than it is in high school. Like you don't have to wake up at 5:45 for morning activity. You don't have to go to prep. You have like maybe 3 classes a day. I don't know. It was not a lot. I didn't have any classes on Friday. Imagine that, like a 4-day week. You have so much time to do what you want to do. And I think that's the beauty. And I think like Rishi said earlier, like that was intimidating at first. So I would not worry about having a part-time job. In fact, I think it was really fun to have a part-time job and had a lot of time for that.
Yeah, I think Ambika covered it all. Nothing to
add. So we have another question about Barnard. Is Barnard seen as a different college from Colombia? And if you guys know, what is the experience likely to be for someone who goes to Barnard?
Yeah,
take that.
Of course. Barnard has a very special place in my heart because I think some of the first friends I made in college went to Barnard. I'm trying to think how to approach this answer because it's a very complex question. Thank you for asking. It's a great question. It's a very complex one. It, occupies a lot of debates on the Columbia Barnard campus as well. I would say academically, Barnard is a different academic experience entirely. You don't have you apply to it as a separate college, like it's a different Common App, different essay questions. You don't have the core curriculum. You have different like majors and requirements for majors. So like the econ program at Columbia, econ program at Barnard looks like the different requirements in different classes. But the fascinating thing is Barnard's right across the street. And Barnard students have equal access to Columbia libraries and dining halls as we do to our own, and vice versa. We can go to their libraries, and they have a beautiful library called Milstein, which look it up on Google Images. Milstein, it's beautiful, which I always go there to study. But so you can go into the libraries and their dining halls at with your own ID. You don't need any special permission, and they and you can take classes at Barnard, they can take classes at Columbia, and some majors are also interwoven. So like you can major if you come to Columbia and you want to major in dance, you can, but Columbia doesn't have a dance department. So you take all your classes at Barnard, but you still get your degree from Columbia. And it's like vice versa with architecture at Barnard. You can go to Barnard, and even though Barnard doesn't have its own architecture department, you can get a degree in architecture from Barnard by taking classes at Columbia, it's all integrated. You don't have to like go into a separate system. So it's very intricate. There's certain clear differences, certain clear, very similar aspects. If I can talk brass tacks, there's a huge debate about, oh yeah, Barnard has a higher acceptance rate, so are not as smart as Columbia, which is, I don't even know. Let's not even talk about acceptance rates. I think it's just great people overall. And you can take like a lot of classes at Barnard, how to be as a Barnard student. I would say try and talk to someone from Barnard. I would say, I mean, if anyone would like to know more about Barnard, please reach out to me and I can connect you with people studying at Barnard. I'd love to talk about it. There's a huge community. I think Barnard has a very tighter sense of community because it's all women, and they have a very clear mission and purpose, which is truly very amazing to see. So I think that sense of community, they have a lot of opportunities for women in STEM, women in consulting, women in finance. And you can get involved in those as a female student at Columbia as well. And they're just very very open on questions of diversity, of gender identity, of just generally very warm people, I'd say, at Barnard. Yeah, but again, I'm not a Barnard student, so yeah, that's my answer. Wrapping it up.
Yeah, I think you covered it. The one thing I would add is I was probably part of the group of people that were like, oh, Barnard, it was easier for them to get in. Ultimately, looking back on it, if you got into Barnard, you were smarter or applied to both, right? At least you had access to Columbia and to Barnard. It doesn't really matter. We all take the same classes at the end of the day. So maybe it was harder to get into Columbia, but who cares? You're still there. So I would say even if anyone, gives you whatever about it, it doesn't matter. It's your experience. Make it the best it can be and ignore people that make it a negative experience. So yeah.
Okay, so it's good to get this perspective. So this question is specific to Ambika. Could you elaborate a bit on your experience in education and how studying education is like in college?
It's terrible. People do not know how to teach you how to teach. So I took education classes to get a certification to teach, unfortunately, and I really did not enjoy them. I wrote a paper all about how bad they were actually and submitted it to my department and got an A in that class somehow. But unfortunately, it's just a path you have to do. I think the best, if you're interested in education, the best thing you can do is get in the classroom and start teaching or do research around brain science of kiddos and actually think about the other areas, like brain science being one of them. I wish I had taken more psychology classes back in school because they play a big part into a kid's experience. So I would be more excited about the content and those things than people teaching you how to teach, because you don't know how to teach until you do it.
Perfect. So I think that was the last question that we have for today, and I think we can start wrapping it up now. So do you guys have anything you would like to say before we finish?
I'm really proud of the LinkedIn connections that have come through. I've seen a couple come through on this call. I think the one thing I would like to say is there's a lot of pressure on all of you. And I felt it when I was in your place. I felt the pressure to go to an Ivy League and to study math or whatever it is. And I did math because I love it. But I really think that no matter where you go or whatever college you go to, as long as you have a passion in your mind or find a way to discover that passion and focus on being your best self, your life will turn out fine. So don't be hard on yourself if you don't get into the college of your dreams or the college that everyone wants you to get into, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is the type of person you are, how you treat other people, and what you end up doing in your life. And so and network with people, right? And you can still get to the same place as anyone who went to a Harvard or anywhere else. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if there are any of my TISB teachers in the audience, hi.
I hope
not. I would love to meet you guys at some point after this pandemic is over. Mr. Pavan's the user there. Hi, Mr. Pavan. Feeling nostalgic about my TSB experience, but I would say please, as Ambika mentioned earlier, not in your path to trying to talk to people and networking, not everyone will help you, but the people who do will be very excited to do so. And just so please feel free to add me on any social media platform. I think LinkedIn works the best because I can see kind of who you are, and we can eventually add each other on WhatsApp at some point as well. But I would say that yes, there is a lot of pressure, especially this coronavirus. I'm sure it hasn't helped at all. In fact, I'm sure it's made things worse. You're kind of like, oh, what do I do with my extracurriculars? All those things. The pressure is high. I get that. Ambika and I have been through that. But I would say, one thing I would say is cherish your time at TISB. I know with the pandemic, it's hard. You're not getting to go back to campus. It's going to be online classes. Live in the moment. Spend time with your family. Play chess with your grandpa. Gossip with your grandma. Like all those sorts of things. I think these are things you're going to miss when you leave and when you go to different places in life. And this is going to be true with everything. I can, even in college, be in the moment. Make the best of what you have, and you'll realize that if you make the best out of what you have in each moment, you don't need the validation of any kind of like Ivy League, or you don't need that $300,000 paying job, because you're happy. But regardless, I think that's a complex conversation, and I'm not going to make it reductive here. But yes. Hi to all my TSB teachers. Hi to any juniors who I know. And please, I look forward to connecting with you all.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And it's really nice to have a reminder to tell us to, appreciate what we have in the moment, because sometimes we do forget. So thank you, Ambika. Thank you, Rishi. Thank you so much for spending your time speaking to us all. And I think anyone attending, if you guys have questions, they've made it very clear that they love LinkedIn and the potential that it has for networking. So please do contact them and ask them your questions. So again, thank you guys so much. And I think we'll end the session here. So bye, and thank you everyone who attended.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.